Everybody, I'm always trying to find the vibes. What's the music going to be? How can we switch it up? How can we find the right thing to set the introduction? But y'all, I am so excited to be here with you today. Welcome to today's episode of Thumbstop Live. If this is your first time tapping in with us, what up, y'all? I'm so excited to have you here. Now, you might be asking yourself, what the heck is Thumbstop Live? So for context, everybody, if you're interested in tapping in with us, check us out mainly on X or Twitter, whatever you're calling it these days, at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive, y'all. I am streaming every Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern, and I am bringing people in our community that you know and freaking love. So what does that mean? That means today we have the one and only David Herrmann joining us. David is a freaking legend in this game. I think everybody knows who he is at this point. So he's going to be joining us in a couple minutes, talking about his journey, not only tactically, but personally, and what that has been. And throughout the week, I've had some really great guests. I've had Shireen from Ilia Beauty join us. I had Morella from Creative Milkshake, Chase from Creative OS, Marin from Inspire Brands, and then Cody from Kinship. The list goes on and on and on. Hey, got the vocals too. Look at that. So I've had such an amazing cast of people join us this week, and it's not stopping. Next week, we're also coming with the heaters. But everybody, with that said, I know you're probably joining us across different platforms. So if you're on YouTube, what up? Happy to have you here. LinkedIn family, how's it going? Instagram live folk, how's it going? And then Twitter and X team, we are here. If anyone's ever interested in engaging, just throw it into the chat and then we can have a conversation and go back and forth. Okay, y'all? Fantastico. Okay, I cannot believe it's already August 21st. Like, this is absolutely insane to me, in all honesty. I'm in Toronto. So when I think of the end of summer, I start to think of cold. And I'm like, I can't deal with no cold weather. You got to be kidding me. This is going to freaking freeze my bones off. So I'm a little bit nervous about what's to come at the end of August. But I know a lot of you here are probably in the same situation as I am. So there's probably some couple things to end the summer on a high that you can do, whether it's going to the lake house, hitting the beach up while it's still warm, an end of summer fair, something along those lines. There's usually always something that signifies that end of summer. And I'm always curious to know what that is for anyone else who's involved in this process. The other thing that I wanted to talk about with you all here is we've just launched a game. You're like, what in the hell? You guys just launched a game? What does that mean? So for context, everybody, last week I had Jess Bachman join us. And Jess was talking all about, obviously, his personal journey. But what he also got into was what he was working on with us. So what I meant by that is when we were working with Jess, a big thing is we were able to actually take, I want to say like 1/1,000,000th of his brain and turn these into different workflows here. And one of the things that Jess can actually do for you, he can conduct a customer awareness stages audit. So what that means is he's letting you know, are you spending your money in the right places? And to support this, we've actually built a game out, y'all. So if you want to check this thing out, I have no way to actually chat to you all, I've realized. But what I encourage you to do here, I'll share the URL so you all can see it, okay? I only have a one-way chat. I can't even type back to y'all, man. Oh my gosh. Super brutal. Super brutal. But to give you context, I have it right up here. So awareness-stage-guesser.lovable.app. Now, for those of you that know, you know. Some notice, some know this. What we've done here is you love Lovable to be able to build this out in the best way possible. Now, I actually haven't played this game myself, so it's going to be the first time I'm giving it a try before David joins us in around 5 minutes. So let's take a look at what the heck we have going on here, y'all. Let's get it. So in the awareness stage guesser, we have stage 1 being the unaware, stage 2 being the problem aware, stage 3 being the solution aware, stage 4 product aware, stage 5 most aware. So let's start the challenge. I'm sure I'm going to have to guess what stage people are in. 1 minute challenge. Oh gosh. Pressure's on. I'm nervous. Oh no, you put a time crunch on me. So you have 1 minute to guess as many awareness stages as possible. Each headline targets a specific stage of awareness. Your final score will show. I'm going to be so bad at this. I'm scared. Here we go. Here we go. Let's figure this out together, everybody. Start the 1 minute challenge now. So the headline is the vitamin C formula that works with every skin type and concern. Awesome. So basically, I'm going to say they know the problem. Let's see what happens. Damn, solution aware. I told you, this is going to be rough. But just to show off some of Jess's thinking that we were talking about, that's ingrained to what we have going on. You can see here, our Jess is literally like close, but let me explain the difference. So now you can start to educate yourself on these different stages of awareness, okay? So now let's take a look at another one. What your dermatologist wishes they could tell you about aging. Oh, problem aware. Unaware. Look at that. I'm going to do problem aware for literally everything so we can see what Jess says. So understandable mistake. The real target is creates intrigue about hidden information. Perfect for unaware prospects who aren't actively looking or thinking about skin aging as problem they need to address. So this is where it gets interesting, and I've run out of time as I've answered 2 questions. But why it's so interesting is basically like thinking about the problem aware stage as it relates to your product. So when you're talking and mentioning headlines that are more addressing the mass market, no even relevance to your product. What you're starting to talk about is being able to target into those aware and unaware segments, okay? So for anyone who's interested, like I was talking about earlier, this is something that we've made publicly available to everybody. So if you want to train your team in a really fun way, what I suggest that you can start doing is you can check it out. Awareness-stage-guesser.lovable.app. Check it out. I want to see what your scores are going to look like in comparison to mine and my 0 for 2 batting average, or my 0 for 2 shot attempt there. Awesome, y'all. Well, that was a quick refresher on when we had Jess on last week, talking about not only his personal journey, but also getting into the stages of awareness and how he's collaborated with Motion, evolving into this fun game that we went through today. But for today's session, I'm super excited. We were supposed to have Connor Rolane join us a little bit earlier, but it's his birthday today. So shout out to Connor. Big birthday. He celebrated in the mountains. We're going to have him another time, but it's all good. And you know why it's all good? Because we have a freaking legend with us today. I'm so excited to have this guy join us. This feels like an absolute pleasure. So without further ado, I want to welcome my friend David to the stage, and everybody, let's give a round of applause. Okay.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Just getting going today here on the West Coast,
West Coast, West Coast. I appreciate it. Thanks for waking up.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
absolutely. Just battling the kids, getting them going for the day. It's fun.
How old are the kiddos?
A 3 and a 1.
Oh my gosh.
We're building trains this morning and cars and all the fun jazz. That's what I did since 5 o'clock this morning. So I'm here.
I said, thanks for waking up early. And you're like, no. I was up at 5 a.m.
It's new for me.
I love it. That's so much fun. And I feel like those are such good ages. Like there's so much fun at those ages.
I love it. It's great times. So
yeah, I don't have any kids of my own, but all of my best friends are starting to enter that stage.
Yeah.
And they're all having girls at this point.
Okay.
And it's just like,
boy and a girl.
yeah,
so I kind of got the best of both worlds.
You got the best of both worlds. But
I was like, should you have a third? I'm like, well, I'm 40. I don't know if I want to have a third kid at 41, 42. So
yeah,
we'll see.
I've heard it gets more challenging. Yeah.
Between 2 and 3 is probably not a big deal. But
Sure. Yeah. The wording. So my partner, her family, they have 4 kids. And then I talk to my in-laws and they're always like, yeah, by the third one, we lost a little bit of parenting power. It's just like,
well, it's funny because it's like when you have the second kid, you kind of like, okay, you kind of know the ropes and you know the cry of what cry is like. You go run to them and the cry that's like, they're fine, So it's kind of a whole different vibe. It's funny how that works. So
yeah.
Anyway, no one wants to hear us talk about kids. So
they all do. Kids are amazing. Stop this. But you are right. I think like there's so many different things that I want to get in with you on both like the tactical but also personal side of things. So I'm wondering though, for those who might not be aware, I don't know how they wouldn't, But if we can just start with a quick, tell us about yourself, professionally, personally, whatever you're open to sharing. We can take it from there if that works.
David, been doing marketing for about 17 years now. Started doing MySpace pages back in the day for the music industry. Got into ecom right around 2009, and been in ecom ever since. Managed media for a lot of big brands. I was the first media buyer at Costco. Ran ads for Gates Foundation. Ran ads for brands like Thinks. I work with Dr. Squatch. I work with some fun brands like the Woobles, Help Magic Mind, some fun brands we get to work with. So every day is honestly a joy for us. Like I actually enjoy coming to my office to work on the brands we get to work on. So and I work with we're a small little boutique company. It's me and my buddy Tanner.
Shout out to Tanner.
Preston. Yep. It's us guys. Motion exec, motion OGs, as I like to call it. So, but yeah, it's, we try to stay nimble and small and just get really deep with the brands we work with. And that's been kind of the case for the last, honestly, this is my second attempt at building a little company. The first one I built, and then I stopped in 2019 because it got too big. And I was like, nah, I don't want to do that again. So now it's like Tanner's always like, should we go bigger? Like, yeah, we're good. Chilling. It's great. So kind of stick with that. So it's been good.
Oh, I love that. That makes me so happy being so clear on like what it is you're building.
Yeah.
I didn't actually realize you were the first buyer on the Costco side of things.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
Yeah. So basically it was back when the team was very small and I kind of helped come in, and the marketing team was 2 people. And I was working for an agency at the time, and we were brought in to basically do it. And they brought me in to do the Pinterest ads and help on the Facebook ads for their .com. So it was fun. It was a very different experience working with a company like that versus working with all these like very, I'll call it smaller D2C brands, because everybody's kind of smaller than Costco. But it's different strokes for different folks. I also have worked in the film industry. I did a lot of film actually during the COVID era, because all the big studios had moved all their people away and they needed help running media for their films. So I did a bunch of that world, managed a lot of different celebrity accounts, worked on podcasts. So yeah, I've done a lot. I would like to say I'm pretty well-rounded at this point. So yeah.
I feel like D2C Twitter is such this bubble when it's just talking about like D2C ecom. And you're like, yeah, but I got Costco here. I got these celebs. I got all the big film industry like buddies out there. So it's like, how do we get this going? I love that.
Right? Yeah. And I think as a media buyer and marketer in general, being well-rounded and working on multiple different areas of the world helps you understand sort of like what each one does, how to measure it, what to look at. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of how it is. So.
I love it, man. I love it. And also shout out to the chat. Alex, he's like, what's good, David? Oliver, my goats. Emmett, he's like, what does Herrmann not do at this point? So everyone showing love.
Sleep. That's good too.
5 a.m. with the kiddos, full day of work, wind down at the end, run it back, make it happen.
So that's why I'm on my second coffee. So
love it. I love it. Something I am curious and diving into of what you mentioned in your story there is how like you had built a company in 2019 to a certain size and then realized not necessarily for you. So I've had the pleasure of talking to a lot of people who built agencies and built companies.
Yeah.
And something I've always been impressed about with you is like you stay so close to the work, especially to today, like living in this, actually doing it. Talk about the experience, like how, why not build one of those big companies and then decide to scale back in this case?
I've worked at, in my early days, I worked at pretty large agencies. I dabbled with like NBC Universal and worked in their in-house agency. I've worked at in-house agencies. I never worked at any of the D2C agencies, but I have been working for the big conglomerates before. And then around 2015, 2016, I started building an agency with a friend of mine. And it got to a point where the scale made me uncomfortable. It did. Like it wasn't my vibe. Like it was pulling me more away from what I like to do, which I'm just a practitioner at the end of the day. Some people don't like to do the keyboard warrior thing, but I'm like, hey man, that's how I feel close to everything. maybe I'm unique in that approach. I don't know, but I've been doing this for so long, and I still play an ads manager. And it was a different vibe. I just felt that if we continued to do what we were doing and grow, and we were working with very big brands, like not D2C, like we were working with like huge corporate companies, and it just was like, hey, your job is just to drive traffic. Like, it doesn't matter what the KPI is, traffic. We don't care how you do it, where you do it, just do it. And you're like, that's not fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing there. So it ended up just turning into sort of like, I didn't feel connected. I enjoyed working with the smaller direct consumer brands. And so, honestly, right before COVID, I ended it and walked away. And it was tough. It was a tough breakup, but it ultimately made me go into 2020 of just like, hey, like I want to do my own thing. And then as I started my own thing, COVID hit. And then it was like, okay, it was me and Ryan, my buddy Ryan Kovach. And we were just doing it together. And then, we started scaling again. I'm like, okay, like COVID hit, now everybody wants to work with us, and it is what it is. So I got us to the point where it's like him and I could only do so much, right? And then his father passed away suddenly, and then he had to step away. And then my mom passed away suddenly, and then I needed help, and that's how I got Tanner involved, because I just was like, hey, I need someone to help manage this with me. Stepped away, and then basically since 2021 and on, we've just been kind of purring along. And again, there's days where I still dabble with it, being like, all right, are we too big even for this, or where we're at? And he's kind of the I don't know, organized version of my head. And he's like, no, we got this. We got, the processes in place. I'm like, okay. All right. Feel good. All right. Sounds good. So it's like, that's what we've done, but it's been a very intentional no more than yes on almost everything, and know the brands that we want to work on, which is a very fortunate place to be in this space. And yeah, that's kind of how it's been. And, still rocking and rolling.
Awesome. I'm so sorry to hear about your mom.
Yeah, man.
Hard to push through those. Push through those.
That's tough times. So, but it definitely changes you, and it makes the day-to-day job not seem as big, but it also helps you be more personal with the businesses you work with. And when anyone ever asks why we pick who we pick to work with, it always boils down to who's running the companies and who we get to work with on a daily basis. Because at the end of the day, that's why we do this. And like the founders of one of the brands I work with came to my daughter's birthday on Saturday. Like, we're all friends, right? So it's like they were in town from North Carolina and like actually came, and it's like that means a lot. It's like, this is, at the end of the day, we're spending all the time with these people. You want to be friends with them, right? So you don't want to feel like you're walking into like a war every time you talk to them on the phone. So for us, that's always been the case. It's like, can we be friends with you outside work? Be able to do this together. So so far so good.
I love that. Also, happy belated to your daughter.
Oh, yeah.
But I really love that, because I think a lot of the times what we hear is that like it's just business. Business is business, and it almost removes the emotion from it. But you've almost accepted from what it sounds like. It's like business is personal. Like it really is.
I think it is. I do think it is, and especially if there are times, we're very fortunate that we have not had a lot of brands leave us, or we've not let go brands, but it's happened. And for us, it does personal. Like, we do take it personal, and because we put our heart and soul to these things, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's the hardest part is, I'm 40 and I've been doing this for 17 years and I still struggle with that. So I'm like, I don't think I ever will not struggle with that. And I know some can just put on their hat and go, but it's like, if I'm dedicating 8 hours a day to your brand, that's like, it's a personal thing to me. And so, it's funny. It's one of the brands I work with. It's like, man, you talk like you own this brand because you talk about it so much. I'm like, I feel like that, it's like, I take ownership of it. I don't have equity in your company, but at the end of the day, it's like, that's where my focus is. So, yeah, so you drop off, but
sorry about that. Yeah, my internet. No, I caught it. I think I was only gone for a second there, but I think something that I've been talking to a lot of, specifically like agency founders recently about, and I also had Andrew Foxwell on a couple of weeks back too.
Yeah.
And something that I love that you've been able to do is provide yourself with this clarity. of like what you're trying to build. Started with like keeping it small, keeping my hands like on keyboard, working with people that I really respect and have a great relationship with.
Yeah.
It's hard to get there though.
Oh, we lost him.
Sorry, I lost you, right? I lost you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're back.
Brutal. I'm gonna connect to my phone if that happens again. But
You're good.
did you hear me up until society? Is that something that we caught?
No, the last line you dropped off.
Okay, so I was saying that you have extreme clarity on what you want to be
Yeah,
able to build. And then I was saying that society, it's hard to get that clarity. And society pushes you in a way when you should like want more. It's like you
yeah.
want more, you want the biggest thing, you want to build the biggest thing. How did you cut through that noise to get the clarity that you have?
I would say that the previous agency money was the ultimate driver between me and the founder. And it was a situation where it was like we had two very different ways of looking at it, right? And it wasn't that we were just not in agreement on that aspect, and it was getting bigger and bigger retainers, bigger and bigger on everything. And ultimately, I'm like, well, if someone's paying you that big of a retainer, you have to really deliver results. And it was just tough. It was tough to be like, I don't know how much more I can deliver, but I always felt like, oh, we need to go above and beyond what we can capably do to be able to pull that off. And so for us, it was like, when I started this thing, I created a situation where it was like, hey, once you hit a certain scale, you don't have to pay us more. Like there's no going beyond. Like you cap it. And every brand we work with loves that, because it's like we work with brands that are aggressively scaling, right? And most agencies, they're in the world of like more and more and more and more and more. At some point though, it's like your retainer gets so high, there's no reason to keep you right. You know what I mean? So I think like for us, it was like there's a limit to what it should be. And it doesn't mean we don't work harder. We still work the same amount, but it's like, hey, we reached where our peak is. Now it's like, we're here for the brand at the end of the day. And it's like, we don't want to be this burden. And it's like, you have 4 people working for you essentially on this brand. And, we will go aggressive and scale. And we don't get lazy along the way. And I think that was always the thing that I ran into with the bigger agencies was that. And, not everybody's like that, but it does tend to just happen because it is what it is. You're trying to grow a business and trying to grow your retainers and your multiples and things like that. And naturally you kind of get to a point where it's like, you can't serve everybody the same quality and especially when you're getting this. So yeah, that's kind of where I ended up at. And, money is not my driver. It's never been my driver. We work with small brands that are not very big, and we put the same love and attention to them as we do the big brands. And for us, it's just watching people's businesses try to flourish in the midst of what chaos we're dealing with in the world today. And it's like, every year I feel like it's something. So, the tariffs this year and trying to navigate that, and the uncertainty of how this year is playing out, and doing what we can. And some years, I always like to say, we're surviving, not thriving, and the other years it's thriving and thriving beyond surviving. So,
The customer, I love the customer centric focus, because there's also something to be said along the lines of like, at least what I'm reading between the lines is it's good to have some visibility into the end destination of where you want to be, but it's also like you have to live every day at the same time. So it's like you want to make sure those days are good in a way that you want to live it, right?
Yes, correct.
So it's like putting the customer first within those days, like seems like it's such a perfect fit. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Okay, David, I've done this thing where I've pulled up some tweets from the past and recently that I just wanted to show you and like get some more context on.
Okay.
So the first one that I'm going to bring up here is from the end of 2022. In 2022, my hope is I helped you learn something, challenged you, or made you laugh. I don't use this platform for growing a personal brand. I do it to delight, inspire, educate. If I failed, I'll delete this app.
Yeah.
So I've always really loved from afar looking at your relationship with like Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious, like if this is still an accurate view of how you see this platform, or if there's any evolved thoughts.
Yeah. I started Twitter in 2008. I've had a Twitter since 2008, which is crazy to think about that it's been what, it's basically been since the start of my career, 17 years.
Yeah.
And I was talking ecom in 2009, 2010 to nobody, right? No one was talking ecom on Twitter at that point. And over time, it was just my way of venting to the void, that because I had no community. I got a job. I got laid off 3 times in a year. In 2008, I graduated college in 2007, right as the recession hit.
Yeah.
I couldn't find work. I finally got hired as a marketing assistant in 2009, working for $24,000 a year, and everybody in the company then got laid off in marketing, and they were just like, "Hey, you could run this thing," and I'm like, "I have no clue what to do." I was in the music industry doing marketing promotions for bands. I don't know how to sell these things. So I used Twitter as my outlet because I didn't have anyone to talk to. And it kind of remained that way for the longest time. And there's been seasons, especially this year, where I've just kind of logged off for 3 to 4 weeks at times, because it's just, I need to log off and move away. But it's not changed at the end of the day. It's still a place that I vent, I voice my frustrations, I share, I want to laugh at. It's kind of this town hall, so to speak. So it's still stayed the same. And honestly, there's times where I've legit thought about deleting Twitter because I'm like, man, I don't know, maybe it's moving me in a different direction, and I get worked up about stuff. If anyone follows me, they know I'm passionate about a lot of things. And it's like whenever I feel like it takes over, I stop. And that's kind of been my thing. So it's always been that. And maybe that's my personal brand, is that I just don't, I don't know. I don't care. I've always rejected the notion that, you need to always grow a personal brand by being on, I'm talking to you, but I always say yes to talking on podcasts, but I don't put myself out there to do it. I usually say no to conferences just because it's not my jam. I don't like, Nick Shackelford knows this. I always say, do I have to build a deck? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, no, man, I'm good. like you make me do homework and I'm not going to do it. Right. At the end of the day, it's like, and everyone knows that. Like, I spoke at ECF Live last year with Taylor Holiday, and I was like, all right, Taylor, you build the deck because I don't want to build it. And so he gave it to me the morning of, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to wing it. And it was great. It turned out well. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's how I've always been. It's just, I'm not comfortable being in the spotlight. I like to kind of be in the background doing my thing. But if people want to talk to me and put me in the spotlight, I have no problems with it. It's just, that's never been my thing. It's never been my driver.
The clarity again, man. Like, that extreme clarity is so powerful.
Yeah. So
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Shout out to Hannah in the chat. She's just like, love seeing your face up here, David. So shout out to Hannah in the chat. You've mentioned a couple times already the music industry.
Yeah.
So I also noticed that when I was going through your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I saw like A&R rep and marketer.
Yeah.
Like, talk about these times. Talk about these times and what you're up to.
So background, my cousin was super big in the music industry. She did radio promotions for one of the bigger music labels. She discovered Matchbox 20. She discovered some pretty big bands back in the day. So I grew up where music was always in my family, and growing up 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, my cousin would send me boxes of CDs of artists that no one's going to hear about for another year. And Matchbox 20 was one of them. I'm like, this is a jam, this is a bop, things like that. It's pretty cool. And so it's like, I'd go to her offices on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood, and she'd have photos of her with Wayne Gretzky and photos of her. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I was like, I want to do that. And so I was just always obsessed with music in the music industry. And, I went to college in Orange County, super into punk rock and, that whole scene. I don't know if you can see my screen, but it's like, I don't know if you can see them.
Not really.
I've got my bling.
Hey.
And, that was my jam. Growing up in Southern, being in Southern California at that time, that was the scene, was the punk rock scene. And was like perfect time, and I got into it. So I was interning at indie record labels down in Orange County, getting involved with like the Vans Warped Tour, and got on board. So I worked for a company called punk video guys, is what we were called. We were pre-YouTube, where we'd go and we'd film all the punk rock shows throughout Southern California.
So cool.
We upload them on the site and put them on. It was in QuickTime, and we were pre-YouTube doing this, and we got on the road. We were on Panic at the Disco's first ever major tour. And it was like that was my jam. Obviously, it didn't pay worth crap, but it was fun, So I went after college. I got a job working for a small little label doing A&R. And A&R is basically you listen to a lot of demos and you figure out which ones are going to be hits and which ones are not going to be hits. And then you sign the ones that you think are going to be hits. And there's so many famous stories of labels turning down bands like U2 or Nirvana. We're like, yeah, they'll never be big. And it's like, well, and it's tough. I was not good at it because I was like, man, this is a bomb. I think we should sign these guys. Like, no, don't sign those guys. But I like it. It's good. And that's my problem is I'm very eclectic with my music choices, right? I'm jamming out to K-pop and I'm jamming out to country and I'm jamming out to punk rock all in the same hour. And that's kind of how it works. So that's been my problem with trying to be an A&R person. It didn't work out. But music is my soul. It's where I ultimately drive, and anytime I get to work with bands or do music industry stuff, I'm all on board. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Our industry is actually quite interesting. So like I've had some really interesting conversations. So for example, like Andrew Foxwell, he was in a hip hop freestyle group in college.
Yeah.
Jess Bachman was an underground like DJ.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson, like he was in a traveling band, and I was talking to Shireen from Ilia Beauty recently. And
Yeah.
she's like, "Yeah, I did so much artwork, and I went to these underground punk festivals and like slaying my artwork." And I'm like, "You all are so cool! What the heck?"
And the thing is we're all. Me and Andrew are basically the same age. I think me and Jess are the same age, or right around the same age. I think honestly, it was that early 2000s through like 2010, 2011, 2012 that a lot of us were just. That was our scenes. And, marketing a lot. Like I went to film school, I didn't go to business school. I went to film school because I was like, I want to work in film music and radio and TV and all that kind of stuff. And it was just like when recession hit, a lot of us had to take a choice because there was nothing there. And so a lot of us ultimately fell into working at businesses, and the only area that was the creative outlet was marketing. So we went there, right? And then it turned into this whole thing where it was like, you're actually not doing marketing. You're actually doing data analysis and spreadsheets. And you're like, whatever, and that's why I think I love direct consumer brands so much is we could do so much, right? Like you look at a brand like the Woobles, who I work with, and we're very like, we do television, like we're making television commercials. Like we're putting things out there that are super creative, very brand focused, that has nothing to do with direct response ads. It's not like if you look at an Emotion, it's like Emotion's gonna say these ads, yeah, they have a good retention rate. They're not doing nothing on conversion. You're like, yeah, because we're not looking at it that way. We're trying to grow a brand. And that's what gets me excited, right? It's at the end of the day. It's like doing the creative outlet of this job and then matching it with the data, right? That's when the magic sauce happens. So
yes,
we're all recovering film school dropouts or whatever.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, when I was talking to them, it's like the pipeline of people who are in some version of music to like our state now is so fascinating. So there must be like a larger cohort.
There's a lot,
Yeah.
and I keep finding out more and more people that are like, hey, I follow you on Twitter. I'm a media buyer. But I used to be a manager in the music industry. You're like, okay. That's a thing here. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I think that is a good transition into some of like the tactical pieces of when you start to get your hands on keyboard, like using the Woobles example that came to life. I think one of the pieces that I'm curious about is like, right, what you had mentioned around building a brand. So what I mean there is basically like to pull up another tweet of yours, because I think they go hand in hand. This was at the end of last year. But creative strategy in D2C is far too focused on direct response, not enough branded assets, seeing their cost per or CPMs rise, and then flooding through.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm curious about is like you skirt it over when you're like, yeah, but we're trying to build a brand, and like not necessarily looking at it that way.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you can talk about like the foundations of brand building as you think about it in your day to day.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, number one is looking at and understanding what your KPIs are when you want to build a brand, right? Because obviously, if you're just going to throw a bunch of money at, you know, commercials and run video view campaigns on Facebook, you're just probably going to be burning a lot of cash. So number one is understanding the fundamentals of how your business operates and where you can actually get to that point where it's like, all right, we're not just surviving on day-to-day Facebook ROAS, but we're seeing organic growth. We're seeing these areas where we're just naturally seeing a lift outside of just Facebook ads. And I think that part of the nexus of most direct-to-consumer brands is unlocking that. And it's like, what is that for your brand? It's up to you. I mean, honestly, it's like you can run. I'll reference a lot of times, and there's no reason for it, but jewelry, right? There's no brand mostly in jewelry unless you're like, what is it, Alex and Ani, or a couple of these kind of ones that kind of were able to get out there at the time because they were pre-COVID jewelry brands on Facebook that ultimately blew up. But jewelry industry is a tough industry. Like, you're basically surviving on ads and people coming to make repeat purchases. So in an industry like that, you have to build brand to stand out. Otherwise, you're just always going to be playing this margin game and hunting, right? And it's like, you look at that with all these industries. And, Dr. Squatch is another prime example, right? Dr. Squatch, we did a Sydney Sweeney campaign this year with the soap. And, it was like, I'm like, the brand is, like, do we need to do that? No, but it's a viral moment. And it's like, how else do you stand out in the midst of selling soap, but making news? And the Woobles is a prime example because Woobles created a category. The category didn't exist prior to the Woobles. It was a crochet kit that helps you learn how to do it, right? And it's like, is crochet exciting? Yeah, for some people, but it's probably not for everybody else. So we were like, why don't we turn this into a fun, clever, sort of whimsical brand that played into these characters and built it? And so, like, part of, like, we did that in 2023 was, like, we launched these commercials that was like, you're obsessed with crochet and it's following you around and it's interrupting your relationships and it's stopping you from scrolling on your phone because all you're thinking about is yarn, right? And so it was this, like, magical sort of, like, connection of bringing people in on the Facebook ads, but oftentimes what we heard was they came in from an ad that they saw this television commercial over and over and over again, and they remembered us. And when we looked at our data in commerce, we saw that the average consumer was taking upwards of 12 months to make a purchase from us. And it's like, well, it's because they've been seeing these top of funnel ads that we're just running on reach campaigns on Meta or through connected TV or through YouTube. That was what was ultimately there. And the buyback period was so long that when we got to the holiday season, the thing just blew up, right? And, like, people are buying it as gifts because they remembered us. And that was what we saw so often. And it's like, not every brand can do that, but a brand like that we're playing in brand and we have the margins and everything to play with, it helps to continue to grow that. That's not going to be for every brand we work with. Some brands, it's like, there's no matter what, like, you still have to hit that the margin's not great. So you're always having to play that game. But ultimately, I do think that in order for you to really survive long-term, you still have to invest in that brand side. Because as I said in that tweet, and I'll continue to say, it's like, Meta's only going to target the people that are in your sort of circle. And Meta's probably worse off now than it was before in the simple fact that unless you're giving it that data, and that doesn't necessarily mean creative for Facebook, it means if you're not giving other directional traffic to Facebook, your frequencies are going to get 7, 8, 9x. And I see that with so many of these brands. Sure, they're still profitable, but they're not growing. And that's been a struggle. And it's, with AI and everything that's happening, I think it's going to continue to get more and more difficult on that approach. And so how I look at it is like, all right, how do we continue to grow these brands and invest in other areas? And it's got to be in fun, clever, comical commercials that help the brand boost outside of just the immediate buyers. And so that's where that tweet comes from.
That makes so much sense. It does make me think, specifically thinking about like a Meta account. Talk to so many media buyers who talk about like always optimize for conversions, like everything conversion. But then you had also mentioned like reach in there. So I'm wondering how you think about like structuring the campaign optimization essentially.
Yeah. So, I would say 10%, 10 to 15% maybe on like either reach and frequency campaigns or through play or new content, things like that that I'll always play with. Ultimately, it still comes down to understanding your numbers, right? And
Mm.
so for us, we know what our baseline numbers have to be, and then from there we just kind of play around. And it's like we'll run these campaigns and we'll see, do we see any lift on organic, and then do we see any decrease in cost per 1,000 account reach? To me, that's like the gold standard. It's like if that number is going down, we're doing something right on top of funnel. If that number goes up, we have to fix it. And the only way to fix it is reinvesting in the top of the funnel. And so, like for us, I've got some accounts that like there's just nothing I can do about it, right? Because I don't have the capacity to go that next direction. But a brand like Woobles, we continue to see our number cost per 1,000 account reach be super low, and this whole year it's kind of just been this, and that to us is a win because it's continuing to bring people into the brand and things like that, and that's been helpful. So for us, it's always looking at those core KPIs. Is organic going up or down? And is our cost per 1,000 account reach on Meta going up or down? And do we generally see the share of voice for the brand growing or decreasing or staying the same? And those are kind of the ways I look at it. And then again, I don't think there's a SaaS tool that's going to tell you, none of them are going to tell you these things. These are the hardest part of, I think, growing the brands is there is no data point that points to it other than just like looking at sort of like if A plus B equals C kind of thing and kind of connecting the dots and going that route. And I think that's the way to do it. But ultimately, like, I would say the majority of brands that are running ads on Facebook that are in sort of our community, conversions can be fine. It's just that you're going to have to always be looking at that cost per 1,000 count reach and paying very close attention to it and going like, our new customers continue to grow. Is that number going up or down? And if it continues to go up, I do think it's important to think about reinvesting some money into a different tactic. And it doesn't always have to be on Facebook. It can be on YouTube. It can be on TikTok. It can be kind of wherever you feel like. But always be mindful of that because it'll catch up to you at some point. So
100%. This is so fascinating. Something I am thinking about now is that when the word creative strategy is used, it sometimes gets pigeonholed into like performance creative and it's like ads. I'm wondering if you have an opinion there, but more specifically, like when you're thinking about creative strategy, are you also applying this to the organic world too? Like, is that top of mind?
oh yeah, 100%. And
Mhm.
again, I'm referencing the Woobles a lot because I'm pretty open talking about just the brand because I love it. They have a killer organic social person. She's awesome, and she's always thinking about these things, and that's how we're looking at it, right? We're looking at our socials are growing. I think we got 1 million subscribers on YouTube. I think we got like 1 million on TikTok. We got like
Yeah.
8,000 on Instagram. So those are flourishing communities that are continuing to grow that ultimately are helping us also on cost per 1,000 account reach because the Meta specifically is looking at your organic. They're looking at your Facebook groups. They're looking at all these things, right? That's part of their systems. And so the more that you can have that connected, the better it's going to go. And so many brands just still sit on organic. They'll just sit on it. And they won't do anything. And those are the brands that it's the toughest ones to grow because it's like, well, if you walk into a mall and you see a storefront that hasn't done anything, like they still have the boards up on, like they haven't even opened yet, but their lights are on, why would you want to go in there, right? It's like that's how I kind of look at it. It's like, well, there's nothing happening on their socials. There's no excitement here. It's like, and then with ChatGPT and Google investing in Reddit and things like that, all that stuff helped play into the brand. And so you should be investing in organic and building organic channels. And I think that Meta's going to tell you that, YouTube's going to tell you that, everyone's going to tell you that. So just do it. Find clever ways of doing it. And it doesn't always mean you have to hire an agency, but find somebody that can come up and create content. But it's the cost of doing business in 2025 is obviously harder because there's more and more brands every year that are jumping on these social channels, and the consumption of content in 2025 is probably 100x what it was in 2015, and like maybe 1,000x, and how quickly you have to scroll. And I mean, there's so many stat lines now are saying like the attention span for people has just consistently dropped. So how do you continue to build excitement? And that's so tough. It's such a tough job. And it's just constantly working with creators to figure out how best do you do it. So yeah.
Jess Bachman is in the chat, has a question. He's asked it in a funny way. I think I have a follow-up too. But Jess's question is, for creative testing, if an ad was fleeing the police, when do you perform a pit maneuver?
I love that. I work with Jess for a brand. So, so it, the way I look at creative testing is twofold. One is I'm in the firm belief that if Meta is putting the spend behind it, there's something there, right? Naturally. But we oftentimes see if we put, 15 ads in and one gets spend and none of the other ones get spend, Meta's clearly not finding favor in those other ads. And then I try to figure out why. So oftentimes what I actually like to do is every month we started to do these batches. So if I'm getting, if it's one product SKU and I'm getting 18 to 20 pieces of creative, I'm kind of matching it per the angle and throwing them all in one ad set. And from there, usually 3 or 4 might get the spend, right? I'll take all those remainder ones and at the end of the month, start another ad set with all of the ones that didn't get spend and move it for the next month into their new thing. And I will tell you probably 85% of the time, it finds new winners and it scales. And that's how I've always sort of looked at it. And it's like, I look at it going, okay, directionally, I'm looking at spend. And if spend is not going to these ads, there's something about this ad that Meta's like, at this moment, this ad is better. That doesn't mean the other ads aren't better. It just means that they think that this ad's better. So then I'm like, all right, from that point of view, let's move these into another thing and try them again without that ad. And that's kind of how it works and what I've seen work best. And it's been probably the number one thing that has worked for us in this year since Andromeda kind of came into play, has been consistently launching 10 to 15 creatives in an ad set and being able to do it. Now, again, not every brand can do that because there's lots of different things that you're trying to hit, but that's what I'm always trying to do. And it's worked pretty well for the brands. So
very cool. Very cool. Okay. Something else I wanted to talk about, which is straying away from the tactics, but I've heard you use the word passion like quite a few times throughout our conversation. I'm passionate about so many things. That's what I'm actually passionate about. So I'm probably going to overly intellectualize this. So just put up with me on this one. But I'm just thinking, like, I think one of the things that like our society says a lot is like, work in your passion, like follow your passion. And like, that's where you can place your energy. Curious if that's something that you subscribe to and like believe. And I'm curious to know if like you're working in your passion, and you'd say you are.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think you should work in your passion because you're doing this every day. And maybe it's part of like the fact that, I watched my mom, who at 64 years old just died on a morning walk. Like she, and my parents had just bought their dream house in Montana. They were going to move there and do that thing. And they had always planned for that. Right. And then she never got to do it. So for me, it's like, I look at things in a different perspective because of my background. So for me, it's like, yes, I want to do and chase whatever I need to chase to do what is best. Now, I'm a Christian, and I believe, and I always am being in mindset of, my walk with God and all that kind of stuff. And I always want to directionally align with where I feel God is calling me, with ultimately what my passions are. And that's kind of been my driver, and yes, it's spiritual, but I think like, hey, that's always been my guiding light. And I've been very fortunate to work in a career that I've been naturally just good at, and people want to work with me on. And am I the best at this? No, like I'm probably not. Like I don't ever claim to be the best. It's always a learning experience, and it's always trying to recheck myself on it, right? Because there are seasons where I'm like, man, I just don't want to get up today and work on this thing. But I will say, the second I sit down and work on some of these brands, like I just drive, and it drives me, and I don't want to stop working. So for me, it's like, it's mixing passion in this every day. And I am, cognizant of the fact that not everyone gets to do that. And, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I was at the right place at the right time. I was literally in Southern California, when Facebook was created, and we got Facebook when Stanford got Facebook, right? So it was like, I've been on these platforms. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg's a year older than me, so it's like we're all kind of in that same age where we were very lucky. We were very lucky to enter when we did, and that's a flex at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people now that are entering the AI space, same thing. Like you're entering an era that is changing, and if you can be the best at it, I'm not going to be the best at AI because it's like I'm trying to do all this that I can't possibly do everything. But I do attest to that you have to be drive to this. This space is way too stressful. It'll eat at you if you're not passionate about it. And so I will 100% agree with that. And if you're not passionate about it, you're never going to probably be passionate about it, right? Let's go find your passion. And it doesn't mean you always have to work in your passion, right? I'm a big baseball fan. I got a job working in baseball and I hated it. Because it's like, wait, you want me to work from 8 a.m. until the end of the baseball game? So you want me to work from 8 a.m. to 11:30 at night every day for an entire summer in the heat? I love baseball, but I don't love it that much, And I think that's how I look at it. It's like, find your passions, do it. Sometimes it may not be aligned with your career, but, always have that element in the back of your mind because otherwise it's just a mundane, dull life,
Some version of an anchor is always great. Like faith is always great for that. It's just like, however you get to that point of an anchor is so helpful.
Yeah.
And I guess something baseball wise, did you work for a team? Like, is that what it was?
Yeah. I worked
for the Twins. Is that what I saw?
Minnesota Twins. And then I did a little bit with the Boston Red Sox. Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah, I kind of dabble in everything, man.
Yeah. I'm like, holy crap. One of my best friends I'm in Toronto. So we're all in Toronto. He lucked out and got a job for the Blue Jays.
Okay.
And he's a scout. So he spends so much of his time in the Dominican. Yeah. Living it up down there. Great. That's the dream, I think. Like if it's in baseball.
Dominican Republic, drinking some brewskis and watching a baseball game in the afternoon.
And he gets to use all the facilities too. So he's in the batting cage, in the weight room, and all that kind of stuff. It's super sick. It's super sick.
Man, I'd be a terrible judge of who's a good baseball player, who's not.
Like the A&R stuff, It's like I think they're great. It's just like
he's got passion. Let's put him up. It's like. No, he can't hit the broadside of a bar. No, it's like he has character. He's got the character.
which is important though. Like I wouldn't say I would love the character portion, but honestly, Blue Jays, but baseball players in general, younger and younger now when they're finding talent, so hard. They're not full humans yet, but they have the talent and skill. So,
but it's I think sports in general. And again, I'm going to compare performance marketing with sports because at the end of the day, you can be super talented and have months and months of losses and it eats at you. So for me, I've always felt for these players that get in these massive slumps at the plate. I'm like, man, I know what that feels like. And I don't have to have, hundreds of thousands of people laughing and pointing at me. I'm just kind of in my own head doing this. And it's tough. It really would eat at you. So I have always felt for all athletes that go through these massive slumps, whatever sport it is. I'm like, I'm not going to yell at them about that. They're trying to figure it out because that is their passion, that they want to be good. So
yeah, it comes with the territory. It comes with the territory at that point. It's always, I know this has turned into a sports call, but I think of, I'm a big basketball guy. That's my sport. Paid out to my first year of college. And it was basketball is, maybe football falls into this too, but it's one of the only sports where you have to literally be a freak of nature. It's not only do you have to be 6'9", but you have to be fast, athletic, can jump out the gym, and you're 5'5".
Yeah.
And it's holy crap. So some people who are just gifted with those pieces, they always talk about it, right? Hard work beats passion, because sometimes the passion doesn't even exist if you just happen to fall into it.
Yeah.
Which is always it's a separate conversation, but that's kind of what I think about when it's be the best.
Yeah. I go to church in El Segundo.
Mm-hmm.
El Segundo is the home of the Lakers. That's where the Lakers training facility is. Mm-hmm. One of their star players goes to my church, and I know him. He got traded last year. And the trade was rescinded. And to watch what he went through of literally going from I'm moving to this city, I need to go tomorrow. And then suddenly, actually, no, the team that just traded me, the trade fell through. Now I have to go back to them, but they wanted to get rid of me, right? And like the things that would probably do to you, and I just watched this guy, like he had to go and try to find a place to live all of a sudden and uproot and do all that stuff. It's a really tough.
This is the rookie, right? Well, we won't say names, but the rookie. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like to watch like somebody who's clearly still young have to deal with that. That's a mentally tough thing. And I'm like, man, I don't envy anybody that's in these sports that has to deal with that stuff. That's tough.
Yeah.
So, but it's like you made it to the NBA, which is a team of what, 12 players, 13 players? Like, there's a lot of people playing basketball globally. And the fact that you made one of the few elite teams and you're on it, like, wow.
Yeah.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Even within that group, there's like really 10 people who take off. Because what this also makes me think of is like you express a lot of gratitude just based on your experience and like what you've gone through. So I'm also just thinking about like my wife is a Swiftie, so she likes Taylor Swift a lot, right? And Taylor Swift, whenever Taylor Swift is asked a question of like, how the hell do you go on like a 3-year tour? She's like, why would I not? Like, I love this. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm also gonna freaking record an album while I'm doing this thing at the same time. Yeah. But it starts from a point of like tying our conversation together. It's like the passion piece mixed with what brings you joy every single day, and then the gratitude that's needed to continue on. So I think when all of those things happen in a melting pot, it creates some version of magic, just at different scales, essentially.
100%.
Oh man, David, you've been so generous with your time. There's like so many other questions that I have for you. So I feel like if you're down, would love to run it back at some point. Awesome. But there is one question that I ask this guy, Jess, never give up on the dream. Lee Sanity. This fucking guy.
Lee Sanity.
I watched the doc. I could get my own doc. But there's one question that I ask every guest who joins, because at some point I want to like stitch it all together and have this long list of things. If you don't have an immediate answer, all good. Toss it to me first. I can help out and start and kick us off. But I'm wondering, do you have a favorite quote? And if so, what is it and why?
Oh man, I do. I'm trying to think of it.
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot. But
well, no, I've got a couple, but I honestly would probably go with a scripture, because I think I actually went to go check. I thought it was still on my bio, but it's not. So it's Philippians 4:8, and it's is finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. For me, that was always the one. It was the driver, because it's like, it's such a, and anyone that's not even Christian can take that and go, that makes sense. It's clarity. It's a sense of always thinking of good and not getting yourself down. And for me, that's always been sort of the thing that stuck out to me. So
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I like quotes too, because they can also, when they're so true that they maintain the test of time. But then there's other ones that are like, depending on the season of life, like what are you repeating to yourself? So like there's something powerful.
If you want me to stick this to more advertising, you can always go with Don Draper's famous advertisement from episode 1 of Mad Men, which is, advertising is based on one thing: happiness. And you know what happiness is? Happiness is the smell of a new car. And obviously he goes on. If anyone's ever seen Mad Men, like the greatest show ever written. So,
David, you're the best, man. I really appreciate you taking the time with me this morning. It means a lot, man. It means a lot.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk to you really soon. We can run it back at some point, but I appreciate it, man.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye. Oh man, everybody, it was so cool. I feel like I don't get to see David talk a lot. Like I definitely see the tweets, but I don't see him get to stand on stage or like go on webinars as much. I might just not be aware, but like I don't get a chance to hear from him very often. So like seeing David speak and why he ticks the way he ticks is always so fascinating. And like as I have a chance to talk to more and more impressive people, there's this through line of clarity that they all have. Clarity on what they want to build, how they want to build it, and who they want to build it with. That is powerful. That is super powerful. And what I'm thinking a ton about, right, is like, well, do you want to achieve all at once or do you have to like take time and can you sequence it out? And something that's coming to mind for me is like, this is definitely a quote somewhere. I've read it somewhere, but it's the idea of if you have the right team, you can find the right problem. And then you can also evolve it at that point, depending on what you want to be able to build. So I feel like David is a testament to that too, based on the business he had previously built to where they're at now with Tanner and the squad. So having him kind of chat through that experience was super interesting. There's so many more tactical questions and even personal stuff that I wanted to get into with him that we can probably run back a separate time. But I feel like that was a great introduction in bringing David up to speed with what we have going on here at Thumbstop Live. But everybody, I appreciate it. I know this one was a little bit shorter in comparison to when we'd run it in the past. But Connor from Hexcloud was supposed to join us, but it's his birthday, man. Flood his DMs, flood him on Twitter. Happy freaking birthday. It's a big one. He did like a nice morning nice morning hike out in Denver where he's at. So he's living it up. I'm going to have him back a separate time. But we did not miss out. We had David Herrmann here, absolutely blessing us with so many different insights. And if this is your first time joining us, what I will say is check us out at ThumbstopLive and on Twitter and X. We are streaming Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. usually, or you'll see an update from me. And that's across so many different platforms. So we got LinkedIn, Twitter X, whatever you're calling it, YouTube Live, as well as Instagram Live. So if you're on those platforms, what up? Good to see you. But everybody, that was today's show. I'm going to see you tomorrow. We have Jess joining us and we have Nick Shackelford joining us. So we got a couple legends in this game, and it's going to be a good conversation. But everybody, this has been a blast. Thank you so much. I'm going to talk to y'all really soon, okay?